Hi Twitch, how's it going? I see you at 360p. Now you're at 1080p 60, because that's how you are, Twitch. Oh, yes, ladies and gentlemen. It's that time again. What time is it, you might ask? Well, it's Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern, which means it is however many hours ahead or behind, depending on where you're at. Got a couple things to talk to you about this week because Linux is finally, we're crushing it for 4% of the desktop market.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to explain why that's a good thing, but I'm going to tell you why it's a bad thing first. That allows the good thing to happen. Hear me out. K9 Mills get some updates that are going to make life a lot easier. New version of Audacity is out with a bunch of cool things to play around with. And of course, why you need Grafana in the mix when you're dealing with cooling your PC. It sounds like overkill. That's because it is, but hey, I'm a huge fan of it. Hey everybody, what's going on? We are on the clock, getting ready. We're going to stick with it. How's everybody doing? Feeling it? We got all the bits. I got to pop out the Twitch chat. I did catch a little bit of internet history kind of went away today. If you're familiar, if you've been on the internet before and you've watched funny videos made by people who make funny videos, you might have heard the name Rooster Teeth.
Oh, yeah.
Warner Brothers shut it down today.
Oh, they did. I didn't see that news.
It's just gone. It is no more. They had like 100 employees and a bunch of contractors, and Warner Brothers is just like, bye. Which, you know, admittedly, I hadn't watched anything made by Rooster Teeth in probably about part of a decade, but it's always sad to see.
It sure is, yeah. And it's been a while since I watched anything, but I was subscribed.
Yeah, the Rooster Teeth is no more. Warner Brothers going to Warner Brothers. That's really all we can say about that. They're going to be doing their things. Hello, Arthurian. Hello, Mir. And of course, hello, Steve. How is everybody doing? I'm just getting all the little bits lined up, getting chats lined up.
Aw. Hi, Arthurian. Big hugs. Hi, Mir.
You got some of that rain too, Mira? I got tired of waiting for it to quit raining last night. I was like, man, I need to go take out the trash. And this was probably maybe like at 9 p.m. I quit waiting for the rain to quit at 3 a.m. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go to bed. And it wasn't like misting rain either. It was like rain where I didn't want to go walk outside in it. Because I was going to have to bring an umbrella into that relationship, and I didn't feel like walking around in the dark carrying an umbrella and a bag of refuse. It seemed like there might be some dangers involved in that.
Oh, poor Arthurian. You have all that expectations to get x-rayed, and then, oh my.
Arthurian, you messed up, man. You need to borrow Jordan's x-ray machine. He's about to buy an x-ray generator. A Stellman 4130. There we go. All right. Yes. Decade. 20 years Rooster Teeth was around. 21 years. Oh, man.
Yeah, because it was years ago.
That's what I'm saying. Piece of internet history. I knew it was like forever old. Started in 2003. Wow.
Yeah, that makes sense. I remember showing some videos in my class.
You're right, Katana. It's the best day of the week that starts with a V. Guaranteed, 100%. No refunds.
Yay, Katana Steel! Yay! It's Wednesday, and Katana, I'm looking forward to seeing you next week at Scale. Hopefully you'll be able to make it again this year. You come every year, usually with one of your kids. Yay!
There's not a lot from like the original OG internet. Like I want to believe, I think the Solid Fingers creator's still around. He's probably still kicking. Newgrounds is still alive. We still have Newgrounds on whatever form it's in. What about like E-Bombs World and Something Awful? There were a bunch of like little random sites.
Yeah.
That just aren't, like, I'm not going to say they're not around anymore because I just don't know. And I'm, part of the problem. Like, I don't visit them anymore. What do? You like crack up your RSS reader and you go look at the front page of Reddit and Google News and just have it spoon fed to you in the morning like I do because I'm lazy. And if you've ever played a video game before, Steam private carts are out of beta. You can you hide stuff that you've purchased.
Yeah.
so people won't see you playing it. And I'm like, all right. We spent some time on Linux Gamecast a couple of weeks ago trying to come up with like, what games would you hide? The obvious ones, right? But like, what if you don't have any of the obvious ones? Are there any other games that you're like, I don't want people seeing me play this? I couldn't come up with anything. It's like, but no, admittedly, I have no shame. So, yeah.
I don't have anything. So
I just play whatever. I mean, most of the time I'm offline anyway, so you don't see me playing.
I know. I'm usually invisible. Yeah, so
I'm just
it doesn't
off
matter.
Because I got tired of people messaging me.
Exactly. Yeah, same here.
While I was playing a game, I don't mind somebody send me a message. One, with the way Steam works with XFCE, Jordan understands this because Jordan was using XFCE for a while. When you send a message, it always pops directly under the Steam client.
Yeah,
And
I know. And you think
never
it's,
see it until you go to shut down the Steam client. And then you're like, well, I guess somebody had sent me a message at some point. That was one problem. The other problem was people would always message me while I was playing a game. And I got tired of having to pause the game, open the messenger, and block them.
It does that in Window Maker and Enlightenment. All the other window managers.
I can't imagine what goes through somebody's head. Like, hey, look, this person's playing a game right now. I bet they're having a good time. Let me interrupt that.
I know. It is annoying.
I used to have a 3-strike rule. There used to be like, hey, man, don't like message me when I'm in the middle of playing a game. If I'm not playing a game, have at it. I got tired of doing that. I just boom, 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 boom. Started cutting people out. And then I just start Steam with the messenger thing offline. It's better for everybody. I cut it on in the after shows and when we're live doing stuff.
Katana has a good use case, though, because he has kids, so that's perfect for that.
I appreciate it, Katana, that you're going to teach your kids how to uncover them. Zero strike. And I hope you have restricted your children's internet, but more importantly, you still have one router in the house that uses web encryption. That is why. Teach them young. Motivate them. All right, we got about 2 minutes for go time.
Okay, I'll be right back.
Here we go. I don't think anything else crazy has went on or has transpired. YMTD is still around. Yeah. YMTD used to be, I never really like got into that hard, but there were a couple of things from YMTD that, that were pretty good. But I feel that part of the internet's dead. It died. My generations, we're responsible for that, man. Like, where are those? Maybe those sites exist. Do websites even exist in that capacity? Is, when you think of a Newgrounds, like, that was its own thing in its own community. Like, that's just been dissolved into the social media sphere, right? There's not like those hubs anymore. Maybe there are. I just don't know about them. Because I'm old. Get off my lawn. Possibly. But I did have a good, nice roll with this sign behind me. Part of getting everything set up is when this thing powers on, it's in like crazy seizure blink mode. What you don't see is these lights. Can you even see them? Like there's floor lights running down here. It's on the same frequency as this guy. So when I try to set these to the correct color, or if I change this from seizure blinkatron mode, it changes the floor lights, the strip lights. So I have to take the remote and angle it in just such a way behind the rack where it just hits. I haven't found a good solution to this either. So if you know a good solution, let me know. To where it just hits one, and that can take like 30 to 45 seconds sometimes a minute of fighting, because it'll catch both of them. Then I gotta get the other remote and reset both of them and try again. Worked the first time today. I was quite pleased with that. I'm happy being a simple creature on Wednesday. It's like I'll take my wins where I can get them. Wire the remote with a cable. So how would you turn an IR remote into a wired? Is there an IR to wire adapter that I could solder on the end of these little remotes? Because there's really not much to these little guys, you know? I was lucky last time because the previous floor light system that I had was incompatible, but like these guys are on the same frequency, but they don't do the same things, which is like super annoying. This could all be skipped if that sign would start in a the mode it's in right now, where it says like smooth transition, but or if I kept power running the thing. I got these things. That's what these rows of things are, these switches, so I could just come in here and go click, 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 and everything cuts on. All right. Oh, I watched an Adam Sandler movie. When was the last time you watched an Adam Sandler movie, huh? Like willingly watched an Adam Sandler movie. A buddy of mine was like, hey man, have you seen Spaceman? And I'm like, Spaceman? And I thought about it. I'm like, no, I haven't, but that sounds really familiar. And I knew why that sounded familiar, because Netflix was bugging me about it. Netflix is like, hey, click on the thing and watch the movie we made. And I didn't know anything about it, so I watched the trailer for Spaceman. And I'm watching the trailer, and I was like, oh, that's Adam Sandler. Oh, in a dramatic role. The last dramatic role I watched Adam Sandler in was Punch Drunk Love, which is a surprisingly good movie from the early aughts. And I'm watching the trailer. Then a thing I'm not going to spoil this. This is going to be difficult to dance around. Bear with me. If you know what I'm talking about, you'll get it. A thing shows up in the spaceship, and I'm like, wait a minute. Is this an adaptation of Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir? I had to go look it up. Like, I just paused the video. I'm like, what? Type it into the internet box, and of course there's all these discussions of like, hey, is this thing ripping off Project Hail Mary? No, it's not. I didn't know about the original source material. Came out 2 years before Project Hail Mary, which had the same thing showing up, at least as an integral part of the story in the spaceship, of the same type of thing there. I'm like, oh, interesting. I still think Project Hail Mary, which I'm glad has been optioned for a film. I'm looking forward to that. That's a good book, by the way, if you haven't read it and you're looking for some good engineering, fun sci-fi. Project Hail Mary, from the creator of The Martian. Good read. Yeah, Sandler movies, dude. Sandler movies used to be dope back in the day. The comedies, like The Waterboy, Little Nicky's one of my favorite top 5 movies ever made. Is Little Nicky. I have no shame about that. I think I quit watching Adam Sandler comedy movies what was the one called Zohan or something? I tried to watch that and I'm like, I've grown out of this. Are you ready, Jill? Jill's muted.
Sorry about that.
Don't worry, I can wait 16 minutes.
Yeah. Oh boy.
All right, let me do a little social media, and we're gonna get it underway.
I always think of Trackmania when I hear the song. Oh, hi, Steve's very own. Hello, you cool kid.
Worked out. Let me copy that over.
But Steve's very own isn't a cool kid. He's outlived all of us. Yay, Trackmania.
Attach the card.
But I guess you're still a kid.
Always depends on how you want to rock and roll with it. You know, I've never understood that
Yeah.
even growing up. That would always turn me a bit sideways as a teenager and later in life, even in my 20s. Like, you need to listen to me. I'm older than you. And I'm like, you fulfilled your most basic biological function of not dying. That doesn't like tell me anything about your intelligence or capabilities as a human being. And as an older person, I get it too, man. Like somebody's like, oh, I will listen to you because you're. I was like, don't listen to me because I'm old. Don't. That doesn't mean I know anything. I know plenty of old dumb people. I consider myself one.
No, Steve husband, I meant Steve's very own is older than we are. Steve husband would be next in line in age.
All right, hang on 1 minute, and we're gonna hit record. Just give me a sec.
Okay. If you want me to clap, let me know. Too many Steves. Aw, Steve's a good name. Hello, Ralph. 9900. How you doing? Hello, Ralph, says Arthur. Yes, Linux is growing.
Cool. I got everything pushed out, and it looks like we can rock and roll, roll and rock, and get in a corner and rock. However you want to rock, just come rock with us.
Ben, do you need me to clap in the mic? Oh, okay. You took care of that last week. Okay.
Have you decided to like shift time and space over there for some reason?
No.
Then we're good.
We're good. I wish I could shift time and space. I would like to go through the Guardian of forever.
What was it? Like 5 milliseconds. What's the differential? Yours is a different setting because you have like AV desync between your audio and your camera because of the way it's going into your capture card. You get a couple extra milliseconds of latency.
Yeah.
So I have to compensate for that. On top of all this, like, it's not a deal. It's a clap test, right? And I'm like, boop, plug in one number. All right. Cool, everybody. Cool. Let's go. Let's do a thing. Let me get that up. Get that up. Let's hit that big record button. It's not really a big record button, but I made it look like a record button, so we're gonna
Oh,
pretend
that's
it's big.
good.
On page 4, man, I looked at that big chunky. What is it? However many keys? At like 32? No, Elgato. Seriously, get wrecked. $200. All right. Hey everybody, let's go.
Mhm.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Linux Weekly, daily Wednesdays where we sit back, relax, take that midweek break, talk about some of the fun things going on in the world of Linux and open source. And Linux is, it's going to be at 4% this week. Stick around
Woohoo!
for that. I'm Vince Stone. That was Jill Bryant. Everybody, we were just having a little bit of fun in the pre-show, talking about things, watching an Adam Sandler movie in space. I know, terrifying. If you want to
Cool.
catch that, if you're a patron, go back and listen to it. We got the pre, it's like our own little mini pre super shows that we do on Saturday,
Yeah.
but we do on Wednesday. We do the live and uncut series, and we make that available just for you. But don't worry, we have a uncut channel on YouTube a week later that comes out. You get the video version, but if you do want that podcast version, go check it out on Patreon. Jill, talking a little bit earlier, you're getting a little excited, a little wound up. You got a bunch going on in the next 2 weeks.
Oh, I do. Scale is actually happening March 14th through 17th, 2024. I've been talking about it for at least the last month here on LWDW. And for our Linux Chicks LA booth, you can come and spin the Linux Chicks LA Wheel of Swag to win a penguin surprise. And we have some cool, awesome raffles planned for some great electronics. But it's a surprise. And so our booth is number 418. And you can also visit the Lutris booth, which is going to be he's going to be near us, not right next door, but near us at booth number 422. And you can use the promo code CHIX on the first page of registration to get 50% off your Scale Pass to come see us. So that would be awesome. And you can also come see me at the Destination Linux booth, otherwise known as the Tux Digital booth, which is our network. But I will be at both, and they're both next to each other, and Strider's booth is next to us too. So it's just, I've been doing so much planning. I'm setting up interviews with some very well-known people in the Linux community. So that's going to be cool. And there've been so much to do. I got a pack for our booze, which I've already been doing. And I'm just very, very excited. And I hope especially if you're based here in Los Angeles or California, you can come to Scale. It's amazing. It's the US's largest Linux community run convention. And it's amazing. We have over 100 exhibitors, like 150 exhibitors, on top of 7 tracks of talks. It's amazing. It is. And so, yeah, that's next week. Oh my God. So Empty's coming into town, and I have some other friends coming into town. And it's just going to be so much fun. It's my favorite week of the year. It really is. And now it's become 2 weeks of my life because of all the work I have to do. So, oh yeah, Vin, so I'm not going to be here on LWW for the next 2 weeks because of Scale, but I'm sure Vin has something cool planned. And also, Vin, we had fun last Friday playing Trackmania with our Trackmania final streams that we do on Friday. And I got through the Temu Gaming keyboard track twice. But of course, I had to do a lot of practice to do that. So I had finished it. I got through it 2 times before, and then got through it 2 times during our finals. So I was so happy about that.
All right. We'll get you to log back out and log back in. Your bandwidth's pretty rough.
Oh.
So log out, give it like 10
Okay.
seconds, and pop back in.
Okay.
That's where it was, Steve. Doing my job, engineering. You seriously need to get your eyes checked, Steve. Also, your ears.
There we go. Oh boy.
There you go. Now you're not sounding so bit crushed.
Darn it. Do you need me to do that segment again?
No.
Okay.
All right. Here we go.
A little bit of fire.
Sounds fun. Sounds like a good time. Glad everybody's going to be able to get together on that scale, and that's going to be March 14th through 17th over at the Pasadena Convention Centers. There's still time to go ahead and grab tickets. Can I get them at the door, Jill Bryant?
You can, as of right now.
Right now. So if I show up day there, are they going to tell me to go away even if they don't have tickets, or are they just going to be at maximum capacity? Do I got to bribe somebody, give them some money, be like, hey, why don't you guys come out? I wave $100 bill outside the door, and I'm like, hey, you want to step outside so I can get in?
No, I would actually pre-register online before you come to the event. That way you know you got a ticket and a spot.
Sounds fun. Ladies and gentlemen, I've been playing around with a bunch of stuff this week. I didn't get one, but two different things out. Something I've been meaning to do for a long time is I did a write-up, because you might remember I did, hey, what the delete expletive is NetJack, to explain how the audio over IP system works in the studio. And I made that video, and I'm like, man, I'm always going to go back and do a write-up. It's been like 6 months.
Oh.
So now over on Interfacing Linux, we got a full write-up that explains how everything works. And in keeping in tradition, we talked about Adore last week. Oh, I thought it was time to make a new compiling Adore on Debian, because the last one I made was compiling Adore 6 on Debian 10.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Now we have Adore 8 with all the dependencies that have been updated and tested by yours truly, so you know it's going to work. So, you know, if you're on Fedora, you're on Next, maybe you still run an Arch, you can look at that. You can translate everything you need, punch in the commands. This one's a little weird because it still uses the WAF build system, you know, which is like scons, but not quite scons. And that might be Moonspeak. You're like, where's just make and configure? Where's CMake? Oh, it was way before that. But it does work and it gets the job done. Now, who remembers this guy? The YouTuber special.
Oh, yeah. The Focusrite. The red Focusrite.
The Gen 3, the darling of YouTubers. And like, you know, I don't blame anybody because, you know, I did a little review on it a while back. And I'm like, yeah, I think it was a bit much, a bit pricey, but it's still a solid piece of kit. Well, turns out if you don't keep track of these guys, they breed. Now I have another one.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, you might be wondering, what's the difference? This is the new one. This is Generation 4 one, which is going to have support landing in kernel 6.8.
Cool.
And it's got a bunch of tools to play around with, and we're going to be plugging this in and finding out what it takes to get the latest and greatest in YouTuber audio interface technology up and running on Linux to make that a smooth transition for anybody, because it's got a little more brains in these, you know. So I thought it'd be fun. Stay tuned for that. It's going to take a little while to get that tested out. But let's go ahead and jump into the big news of the past week, which is Linux market share going over 4%.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, so this is just so exciting for those of us in the Linux community. So StatCounter reports that for the first time, the Linux desktop market share is above 4%. Woohoo! Linux now has 4.03% of the desktop market, and that is actually a huge jump from the 1.53% that existed at the end of 2020. You remember, Ven, one time it even hit it hit like 2% in 1 month, and we were so thrilled.
Yeah, well, I don't. Numbers aren't real. I can't trust them.
Yeah. So there are, of course, many awesome reasons why this is happening. You know, Windows 11, you know, only works on newer systems now. The installers on Linux distros are just so much easier and faster. They've actually always been faster than Windows anyways. But the OS is also plug and play. And it works on older systems, and people don't need to spend the cash to upgrade, and they can keep that computer out of the landfill. So there's lots of awesome reasons, let alone the increased adoption to Linux of apps. A lot of companies are porting their apps to Linux, and the sheer popularity of the Steam Deck, which is making people more curious about Linux. So it's all been really good. But what is interesting about Stat Counter is that Chrome OS is not counted in the Linux desktop stats, but as a separate operating system, which I actually do understand why, but it does use the Linux kernel at the end of the day and is closer to Linux than Android is. So honestly, if it had been counted, Chrome OS had been counted, it would be over 6% market share. So Ben, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, I mean, on that same vein, let's count all the Windows point of sale registers in the world too, if we're going to count Chromebooks.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
That'd be kind of crazy. So let's think about this, man. We all know, whether or not you want to admit it, desktops, we're dying breed. Desktop users. Like, there's some people who are going to give me pushback, like, no, and I'm like, I can back that up with maths.
Yeah,
more charts.
we can.
I mean, I will win here. Oh, at least between, where's it dying? Well, desktop use is dying between creators and consumers. Like, if you are doing content creation, if you're making stuff, more likely you have a desktop. If you're not, if you're sitting back, you're like, hey, I like watching this stuff, and maybe playing the occasional game, you might have a laptop. More than likely, you got a mobile device, probably a gaming console. Mm-hmm. The average person, especially ones on the younger side, they're going to be using their phones, they're going to be using their tablets. And if you don't believe me, look around. Like,
oh, yeah.
That's all you got to do, man. Like, again, I don't feel like arguing on the internet with people. Now, people looking for that desktop experience, this is where it gets interesting. This is what we're starting to see. This is how it's shaken out. Is we're having, if you're like, I need a desktop because I need to make some stuff, or I got some special needs. You're having to actively seek that out now, because not everybody just has a desktop PC. You're like, well, I need to set up a desktop PC. I got a reason for it. And that means, unlike previously for the past 30 years where everything was just a Windows desktop and you just went to the Windows desktop store and you bought a PC at Best Buy, that's kind of a specialty item. That means Linux is in the running because you're starting from point zero. You're like, well, I need to build a desktop PC. Yeah, or maybe I need to buy one. And there's a Linux option sitting out there. Windows is no longer the default. It's just choice A or choice B, however you want to look at it, unless you're like some weirdo that wants to run haiku.
Yeah.
Maybe that could be a thing. There's going to be literally dozens of us, but then I firmly believe that's one of the reasons we've seen that spike. And somebody's going to be like, what about the Steam Deck? I kind of went and looked at that. Like, if you want to, maybe the top 4% of those numbers we've seen about, according to SteamDB, I think year over year it was, because we're basically looking at the iGPU that's in the Steam Deck, APU, as that metric, probably about a 30% bump on Steam side. So if that's being counted. As for Chromebooks, I could go back and forwards. I understand both arguments from that. It's like, it's technically Linux. I'm like, well, let's just count Android too. And they're like, well, that's not Linux. I'm like, about as much as a Chromebook is, man. Let's be honest.
Yeah. It does have those proprietary blobs that Google puts on there. Yeah.
So, I mean, the people who have desktop PCs, we're getting a smaller group, but that in its own way is good for Linux, because the people who want to build these PCs are making informed choices. They're not just inheriting their parents' desktop PCs and getting stuck on Windows. They're like, okay, I need to research this. What do I want to do? Oh, maybe I'll try this Linux thing, or I'll try this Windows thing, which is cool. And we're going to see higher and higher adoption. Good
Absolutely.
News. There are literally dozens of us.
There are, unfortunately, with the popularity of the Raspberry Pi, a lot of young people are exposed, to a different operating system other than Windows. And some of these kids have never even used a desktop PC with a mouse, because they're using, or they're using laptops or, mobile or tablets.
Well, with a laptop, I definitely consider, again, it's still like trying to explain to a 12, 13-year-old who you would consider to be very computer literate. I've talked to one in real life, no concept of how folder structures work.
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
And you're
Yeah.
like, wow, okay.
Mhm.
That's the danger. You can end up like, hey, things are great now. You don't need to understand how that works. I'm like, well, that can come back
Yeah,
and
yeah,
bite us. Yeah, if you got a kid,
yeah.
teach them about folder structures. Get them running Linux. Get them running a desktop operating system. Let's not let the intelligence curve slide down to where we don't have people that know how to do anything.
Yeah, exactly.
That would be for the best. All this is going to be in our show notes. Go check it out later. But I want to talk to you about Thunderbird. Why are we talking about Thunderbird?
Woohoo!
Well, they do email, and you might remember a while back, they kind of showed up and yoinked themselves a K9 mail. K9 mail is something I've been using on Android for a long time, and like a lot of people, I'm like, don't mess this up. Please don't mess up K9 mail. So far, they haven't. Actually, this is really good news.
Yes.
New version 6.8 is out.
Mhm.
And if you're watching the video version, what's on the screen right there had me very excited. New account set up. And I said, joy of all joys for that, because entering email accounts on mobile, always
Yeah.
a bad experience.
Pain.
It's not good. No
Yeah.
one says, yay. I mean, you have to be really bored to be like, I can't wait to set up a new phone and do all of this. Because on mobile, you typically are going to have, even Gmail, if you're using that on Android, is a little wizard that's going to try to auto connect to your big accounts. It's not too bad. But if you're like me and you run your own email server, that means you're manually punching in all the incoming, outgoing IMAP servers, setting your encryption, SMTP for sending mail.
Mhm.
It is crazy, tedious work if you got a bunch of email accounts like I do.
Yeah,
I
you
loathe it. I'm like,
do.
that's an afternoon. I will put it off. So this new system, you feed it a username or an email address. It's at least going to take a crack at it, which is really good. It's going to try to populate all your settings. And like, even if it doesn't get it 100%, if it can get me like 60% of the way there, at least, identify that, hey, it's an IMAP server, and what's your incoming? What's your outgoing? Do you require, what type of encryption are you using? Do you need a password? And like, if it can populate that, or I just got to punch in, just a bunch of stuff, a couple of things at the end, I'll be very happy with it. And there's a nice collection of bug fixes along with everything else in 6.8. Good to see. If you're not using K9 Mail, I strongly suggest it.
Mhm.
I liked it. I decided to just try it because I've been using Gmail forever. Why? Because it came on the Android tablet and I didn't have to mess with it.
Yeah.
I went through the trouble, of downloading this and setting it up. I'm like, let's give this a good chance. Still a big fan of it.
Yeah, it's great. I've been using it for years. In fact, I've had my Gmail account on there and several other accounts over the years. And it's just this is going to be so much easier, especially for the new users that might be intimidated by the process of punching, server settings and whatnot in. So this is just going to make life a lot easier. And for me, it's really nice because I don't have to cut and paste or type addresses and server settings, on a touchscreen keyboard. It's a horrible experience. But this is really wonderful, and Thunderbird is doing such a great job with K9. Yeah.
Don't mess with the UI. Please,
Yes,
Thunderbird.
it's really good.
Like,
Yeah.
just it's good. It does not need bettering at all. Just it's great. Default, it's got a nice unified mailbox. I love that,
Mhm.
and that's why I like K9 Mail. That's why a lot of people like K9 Mail. Don't mess with the UI, please. Pretty, please. Audacity 3.5 is out.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of a beta.
Yeah, it is. It is. So the Audacity open source audio editor has a new beta release, Audacity 3.5.0 beta, and it has several really cool new features. The big one to me is that you can now set up cloud saves in Audacity to save your Audacity projects to audio.com. All you have to do is make an account at audio.com and you can automatically upload your Audacity files to it free of charge. In fact, I did that as I was reading this article. And actually, in the article on GitHub, Audacity states, this allows you to work from any device, share and collaborate with others, and restore previous versions if something went wrong. Yeah, absolutely. It's just so nice to have another backup system that happens immediately, which is really cool. And Audacity also has a new tempo detection feature, which adjusts imported loops to be in tempo, which is really, really nice, especially for those musicians out there. And there is a new non-destructive pitch shifting feature for clips. All you have to do is hold Alt and the up and down arrow keys to adjust your pitch shifting, and it works non-destructively. So it won't interfere with the original file, which is really cool.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm just taking a look around on, audio.com, because let's be honest, ever since Muse bought Audacity, rightfully so, you should scrutinize everything that they do.
Yeah.
You need to. And, I'm looking over everything here at audio.com, and, it is completely free, and you do retain all of your copyrights to everything. What I can't see is, are they or are they not training on the data for your waveform? So,
okay.
If you find anything, let me know in the comments. Because I always like to err on the side of caution, but I don't see any downside here. I was expecting hey, this is commercial and all that. This looks like they're trying to do a good. So hopefully that's exactly what they're trying to do. Also back up your projects in multiple places and don't only rely on cloud.
Make 3 backups of everything. That's our motto. Have it remote, remote, cloud, and local, and you got the bases covered.
Now, who here has ever tried to cool their PC?
Oh, we've all been there.
I just had most of you being like, man, that's overrated. I don't even put a heatsink on it. I just let it run, man, natural.
Yeah.
Why is it only at 100 megahertz? Probably not. Well, how about we take a little trip and exploit some thermal mass for fun and profit. Now, because if you ever really wanted to dial in the fans and pumps on your PC, this might be a way to do it. Because you know what? Noise is a battle. I'm fighting noise right now. I am in a eternal struggle with the noise floor in the studio because I am in the middle of not 1, nay, 5 PCs.
Yeah.
And instead of playing around with fan curves like I do, this dude, he took another approach. He brought Python and Grafana into the mix. They showed up to the party because he really wanted to get this dialed in. So what he's doing here, he's controlling not just the fans, but the pump speed, and it's going to be based on the CPU temperature and the fan speed. Wait, I got that completely backwards. It's based on the CPU temperature. Fan speed is typically what you do. This is also taking into account the temperature of the liquid. So whatever, usually like propylene glycol you got running through the radiator, and charting all that out. He created a script. It does a complete load test to calibrate the system. And then he decided to parse all the info with Grafana, and it runs all the bits on a systemd service called FanGoblin 3. But reading through of course, taking advantage of Python LM sensors. But what I found, something very interested in, this is great. There'll be a link in the show notes. And he said he was able to get it because he was talking about the Noctua fans, which are guaranteed to run up down to about 20%. But he's like, no, you can make them go lower. This is a great deep dive to read through. And it does warn you, be careful with all this because you'll need to adapt it to your system if you want to try to get a truly silent system. You're going to get everything calibrated. Fun read. I really enjoyed going through it. I suggest you do too if you want to make a Stufu box that has some fans and you can still deal with some load. But this liquid CTL was a little bit of a thing. I'm like, I don't know if I've talked about that maybe in the past. Maybe I was aware of it. But if you have a Corsair or NZXT AIO, this is the tool you've been looking for because by default, your pump speed's 100%. Which normally you can't hear, but you can kind of hear it is there. And as they get older, that pump's going to get louder. This is a handy tool to allow you to control it and to set it on a curve, which is arguably a good idea, arguably a bad idea. I can make a case for why that would be bad for a pump, but also good for a pump, depending on the particular use cases. Not only that, this thing also controls a bunch of different lighting tools, LED controllers, like from Aqua Computer, a bunch of Corsair NZXT stuff, and select EVGA 1070s. Now, how much would you pay? Nothing, because it's open source. I want you to go check it out. Happy to see that, because one of the things I have to do is I have summertime and wintertime curves for not one machine, 5.
Yes,
you know,
you do.
You're sitting there going, yeah, I spend an afternoon playing with it, load testing, get everything set. Yeah, do that 4 more times. Also have profiles for 2 different seasons. And yeah, it's always that race to like get things like super, super quiet, or at least as quiet as possible. And I think that this is also important for people because people want to build those little thermal death boxes, those shoe boxes, those micro PCs, because they think they look cute. And I'm like, that's a great way to kill your hardware early. So kill your hardware less early and make it slightly more quiet by looking up solutions. And anytime I see somebody bringing a Grafana into the mix, I'm like, what are you up to? Because they're usually up to something kind of fun. And this was no exception. Really glad to see. Jill, do you like I used to like big loud fans, and still I like set up this room. I had one of the Vantech Tornado fans. I still have it.
Oh yeah. And you remember the PCI fans, how loud and noisy those were? And I used to have a lot of those to cool my SCSI drives back in the day. Talk about noisy.
I spent a decade crawling around data centers, but like if you can find an example, I might just do a little video of plugging that thing in. I forget how many RPM the Vantech Tornado fan was at the time. You could hear it from rooms away. 80 millimeter fan. To give you an idea of the speed, the one time I was building a PC and I had the cooler on and I didn't have it mounted to the top of the cooler. I had the fan because it was a 3-pin Molex, right? Mm-hmm. And I just had the fan sitting on my lap, just right on top, and Indian style, like on the floor, doing the little thing cross-leg. And I'm like, okay, let me see if the thing boots. And I hit that, and I forgot about that fan being plugged in. That fan has enough torque to jump and unplug itself.
Yeah.
Like it shot up, and I was like, like that thing. It wouldn't. It would take a finger off. Maybe you can still find them. Do a search online. See, I'm sure somebody's got a YouTube video of one being like insanely loud. Anyway, I no longer like loud stuff.
Yes. Yes, we used to have to live with it.
I want it as quiet as possible. And,
yes, you do.
How do you do that? I do it with like big Swiss cheese Corsair cases, strangely enough. There's ones that are just filled with holes and big 140 millimeter fans that are barely turning and just getting stuff hot. But you know what? We don't have to worry about it so much anymore because now CPUs have the ability to thermally throttle.
Yeah.
Instead of melting.
And shutting down.
If you remember the flip chip AMDs, I popped a couple of those cores back in the day.
Yeah.
Good times.
The other really noisy ones, Van, are in the Blade servers. I've got a couple here I used to use for rendering. And those little tiny baby fans, and there'd be like 16 of them in the case.
I got like fan rails.
Those things are horrible.
My Dell PowerEdge down in the basement is like, it's a full sled unit that it will chase you out. Like you cannot be in the same room.
Yeah,
as
same
that thing
here.
There's a reason we wore earplugs.
Yeah, the HP ProLiants do that. And then my Deck Alpha, the fans on there actually weren't, they were loud, but because they were so huge and that computer's on casters, it would actually move the case because the fans were so big and moving so much air. So they'd be loud just because the thing would move.
My Deck Alpha is relatively silent. Good to know, ladies and gentlemen. That's going to wrap us up for this afternoon. This show, as Jill said, going to be taking the next 2 weeks off. I might get up to something. I'm not going to make any promises. I don't have anything planned, so that could be a good thing or a bad thing because I got a bunch of stuff to catch up on. But keep an eye out on the schedule over at twitch.tv/Linux Gamecast. All right, we will see ya.
Woohoo!
Next time.
Chased by your PC, yes. It scared me one time that happened. So it happened quickly one time because the casters were real loose. So it moved when I turned it on. Thank you to all our executive producers like Artherin in chat, and our Chicago Kicks peoples like Super Dust Stout, and our Sea Monsters, Trug Gills, Veritanuda, Justin, and our Death Notes, Rue, Turnover, Ogiwan, and Foxdog, and our Chairlings, Door to Door Geek, Colin, and too many for me to name.
All right, beautiful people. Have a great rest of your week. I'm going to be back, let's see, Friday. We'll be doing Trackmania. Come hang out with us. Do it. I dare you. You get your information in there if you're a patron or a Twitch sub. Link it up to our Discord. Everything's pinned in there, and we'll see you there at 7:30. And, of course, Linux Gamecast Weekly, 8:30, right here on Twitch. See ya.
Bye, everyone. Love you all.
All right.
Swamp boat.
Yeah, the Power Edges, like, strangely enough, I always hated, like, the 1U type situations. Mostly what I had to deal with was mainframes, and those are water cooled for the most part, especially most of the Z series I was working with. And the Sun stuff, Starfires, were relatively quiet. What you typically hit those screaming fans is, you know, your 1-2U boxes that are shoved in there, and you got a whole row of, and, you know, you're dealing with, like, your heatsink. What's your heatsink? It's just a block of metal with some fins on it. You're taking care of just the through flow of your air. Oh, man. Yeah, like, they are loud, but I mean, you can, depending on, you can always go back and, because I've played around a lot with the Dell down in the basement, because that used to be the home router for everything. It was the big boy router that took care of everything, and all the switches and everything were plugged into it, and other routers were plugged into it. But we can get in the IMPI and BIOS and, like, get them down to a certain level, but you always run into, like, what your alarm's set at. Like, sometimes, because on that Dell, you can hit that with HPs too, you have a hard alarm setting where it will light up and start screeching bloody murder if the fans get below a certain level, because it's going to melt.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's the other thing, is the alarms and cases on workstations. Oh my god. I had a few go off before when I was rendering. So it was
well,
hard on
actually,
the machine.
Katana, Suns don't have a BIOS. Actually. What you mean to say is the boot prom?
Yeah.
1 a.m. Yeah, I mean, we're in a different timeline now. Now
Our
the server can send you an email or a text message, and it's like, hey, like, all right, fine. Let's see what's going on. But, you know, then again, we can log into them remotely, which is also cool. And you can power cycle these days. You don't have to get somebody on the phone. You go tell them, hey,
yay,
I need you to go flip the switch on this guy. And like maybe 30 to 40 minutes later, they do it. Yeah, I always thought about doing a video. I'll do that if I ever want to do like a little collect video to get the kids watching and put Linux on like one of my Ultra 5s or Ultra 10s and explain them how Open Boot Prom worked. It was UEFI. Imagine basically all the power of what you would consider, you know, modern UEFI, but it was command line based. And but you had to feed a bunch of it would be interesting to see how many moon glyphs that are permanently etched in my brain. Get things
all
up
the
and running,
settings
because
for that.
like basic things like I need this thing to boot, attempt to boot something off of a CD-ROM. That's not straightforward at all. Maybe I'll do that one day, because I probably still have some copies of Aurora Linux laying around. We can do like a retro Linux in 2005 on a Sun video, but I don't know. I don't want to go. I don't really have a place to put one of those, because I don't want to put an Ultra 5 on this desk. I think I have like a desktop Ultra 5 model. All the other ones I have are racks. Rack
mounted.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No,
I've got a lot of Sparks and
room.
a stack.
If I do have, now I'm thinking about it, because I do have an Ultra 5 with a 440 U10 module in it, but it also they all had this gremlin. At some point they would develop it. It was a chassis ground loop error, which would just cause them to randomly reset.
Oh.
Those was known if you had a Rev AAA or above motherboard. They just did this, and it has never been solved to this day. What exactly causes it? Like the only problem with like filming that was like it could very well just constantly reset. Now, who knows? Maybe we'll play around with it. Maybe in the future. I was thinking about buying one of the one of those N100 mini PCs, but I don't know which
the
would be a good one to get.
Mm-hmm.
There's a bunch to play around with, but B-Link is the traditional one.
Yeah.
I was looking at this GM Tech, because I think they had they did yesterday when I was looking at it, a cheaper version, like $139 version. That's about what I'm willing to pay for one of these. I was thinking about making the Jitsi server x86 instead on the Raspberry Pi 4.
Yeah, I remember you've been wanting one of those little PCs for a while.
Well, I wanted one of the big powerful ones, like one of the
Intel nukes.
Or the Dells.
Yeah.
But those things are like still $700. So I don't want one that bad. But these the N100's probably powerful enough. It's way overkill to run a Jitsi server, as like our Jitsi server right now is running on Raspberry Pi 4. These things stomp an 8 on Raspberry Pi 4 or a 5 for that matter. But I don't know if they'd have enough juice. That'd be another thing to see if I could set them up as these spare boxes over here. But we'll see. Might be something to play around with. Getting Linux on them shouldn't be too difficult. I say that now. Still depressed that nobody's making a really good case, all-in-one case. I went looking. I was like, you know what? I need to pick up a Raspberry Pi 5 for to see if I can set up a digital audio workstation. I had a couple people bug me about that. I'm like, yeah, maybe. But nobody's got a good case for them yet that holds the NVMe hat.
Yeah.
There's a couple of NVMe hats out on the market now from like GeekWire and other places. But getting the cooling fan and that on top, and nobody's got a real good solution for that. Not like an all-in-one. It's like I went shopping around. I'm like, I could piece one together, but I hate buying from different manufacturers for stuff like that because it can be finicky, and I don't want to have to like rig something up that kind of works. I was really hoping like CanaKit or somebody would be like, here's everything you need.
Real quickly. Yeah,
right.
put one out, and they haven't yet.
Give me all the parts. Or at least Argon would have an Argon 1 case. Like I have the Pi 4 in that Argon 1 case with the SSD slot in the bottom, which works great. And maybe not. Yeah, Arthur, I looked into those. Those are cool. We talked about them on the show, but they don't come with power adapters. And they want like...
Yeah, they're like crazy expensive on the power adapter.
And it's just principle. It's a silly VIN hang up that I have that I'm like,
it should come with
you guys are
adapter.
over. Tell me the exact ones that you bought off of Amazon for $12. And they're like, no, give us $30 for the ones that we bought off Amazon for $12. I'm like, no.
Yeah, Katana, that would be funny to put a Raspberry Pi in a full ATX case. Just mount it with one screw, you know? That would be funny. And then you could have the I/O ports come out the back of the case.
And the only thing I worry about with the Zima is two different seasons in here. Summertime, like on Linux Gamecast Weekly, it gets brutally hot in the studio because the studio is insulated. And like it'll get like 32, 33 degrees in here on Saturday night because I'm in a relatively smallish room with 5 PCs running with 7 monitors and lighting. It gets hot. So I need something with a fan on it. Because even that Raspberry Pi 4
it'll heat up.
has a fan on it to keep it from melting.
Yeah, you can't have the AC because of the noise. And it's yeah, you got to cut it on before or after your stream. And
oh, Arthur, and I got 2 ACs. I got 2 ACs for the house, upstairs and downstairs. I got a vent in here. It's great. Can't have it on while we were doing a show or you hear so. I mean, if you don't mind that.
Yeah.
If you don't mind that, and I even bought a wall PC, not a wall PC, a wall mount AC, like one of those window unit type things for the summertime when I'm in here editing. Because even the house AC, I only got 1 vent in here because, you know, it's not thermally designed to have 5 PCs in there. It's not enough. I even need that, like when I'm in here all day recording, because it just gets too hot even with the AC on in the house. It'll be blistering hot in here, and I'll step outside when we're doing the show on Saturday night, and I will get like chills. I feel like I'm walking outside covered in water in the wintertime. I'm like, ugh. Yeah, the noise is that bad.
Oh yeah, especially for home units. Commercial units, they do have ones that are quieter, but home units, no.
And over the mic, does that
the mini splits are better, but so what I do when
can't
this
get a hold of the fan. I have some polar fans here in the studio. They're USB fans, a little 9-inch.
Yeah.
And they're low enough, they get a low enough noise floor to where if they're kept away from you, and they're definitely behind the mic, they're not too bad. But yeah, it's rough. Like, you just got to deal with it. You know, like, if you can't handle that, you would never be able to survive a recording session inside a recording booth. A recording booth's twice as worse.
Yeah, and hot.
You don't have any air in there either. You're just blocked in with your own. Make sure you get a shower before you spend a 6 or 7 hour in a recording booth, because you're just sweating, dude.
Yeah.
Like it's silent. You know, you don't get a multi-million-dollar recording studio like you see people going to. Like, no, you get a booth, man, that you get to walk into and hang out in. I think the guy from Pod, the guy who used to do mic reviews, he had a fun solution. He built a recording booth out of old mattresses. Like, he built a hut that he could get in. And he was in there. He's like, normally I don't even have my shirt on. I'm like, I know. It's rough, dude. It's rough. Yeah, as long as but like for most stuff, you don't have to worry about it. And another thing, like, I'm already dealing with noise. Extra noise, or even worse.
Yeah, so what I do, our Theron is in the summer. We, occasionally have a few really hot days here, and we have an air conditioner in the living room. So what I do is I open my door. So you don't get the noise from it, but I get the air from it. And it was funny because Steve and I, thinking about getting a new air conditioning and heating system, but I realized I don't want to vent in this room. So I don't want to have to worry about it.
Is that house on a slab?
No,
Oh, it is raised?
Yeah.
All right, cool. Then at least
Absolutely.
you do have that option, though.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's kind of neat what they got now. Even if you do have a slab, that they can do pipe trench.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
which is pretty dope to see. I've watched a couple of installs like that, and I'm like, oh, that's really neat.
Yeah, some people here have them in their, have the vents in the floors, which makes sense, especially for heating the house because
Oh,
air,
that's
hot air
mine are
rises.
floor vents. Yeah.
Yeah.
You bring water. That's like one of the few times. It's just rough. You ask anybody who's like had to go into like a legit recording environment and do that, and because you want your noise floor to be about minus 82 dB, which that can be rough to get. What's our noise floor in here right now? Do I have a meter? Here, let's find out. As a team, let's.
Oh, nice katana. Yeah, you gotta have that. Yeah.
Okay, can I? Oh, I can just host that on Imager. That's right. Hey, good on you, XFCE screenshot thingy.
Yeah, usually I just, I open the window because we're by the beach, but to keep the dust away from the room, I do not open the window in here. So, and I usually have my door closed, so I don't want the dust. And then the air conditioner is nice because it has a bit of a filter in it.
That's what we're dealing with right there, which is just on the borderline of usable. Well, we're about between 50 and 54 dB.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You could have HVAC. I rarely cut both of my units on because I don't spend a lot of time upstairs, but you gotta have it. Plus, I like to stay chilly.
Yeah, you like it cold.
I mean, wintertime is great. I rarely cut on the 8. Summertime, I gotta be thoroughly chilled, or I'm not gonna be. I want to be able to drink a nice hot beverage. All right, everyone. I'm gonna go get this packed up, and when I get everything on, I'm at least gonna plug this thing in and see, because I don't have a kernel 6.8. I have kernel 6.6. Why? Because this is an LTS. And that's a couple things, because there's a patch set for these, because we can even update the firmware on Linux with the new ones, thanks to the work a gentleman's doing who has been in contact with Focusrite. And Focusrite's like, hey, we'll help you out a little bit. Oh, that'll be fun.
Thank you, Katana. By Steve's very own. By Arthurian. By Mirror. By Steve
Have a
Husband.
great rest of your week, everybody.